my name is Monica Price and welcome to Late Night with Monica Price, and I'm very, very pleased to say that I have Nick Endacott Gibb with me today. Hi Nick, how are you?
Hi Monica, I'm fine.
Nick is a singer-songwriter and we're going to be having a good old chat with you today, Nick, about your life and what you've been doing, especially during lockdown, of course. So great to have you here. Now Nick, you are a singer-songwriter.
I am.
You have a band called The Speak.
Yes.
And you've got a new single, of course, called Flowers for Jackie, which I've heard, and I must admit I love it.
Thank you very much.
Very 60s vibe going on there.
Thank you.
But Nick, we're going to talk about today, just how did you get into the music industry? What was it that kind of influenced you? Or have you always been interested in music?
Well, I've always been musical. It's followed on through my life. I was singing first of all in the local choir, and everything sort of naturally led on. I taught myself guitar, drums. Got myself
self-taught.
Fantastic. And then obviously that led to playing with people at school and bands, and it just carried on from there.
So it's in your veins, really. It's in your veins.
It is.
It is. And I mean, Nick, you've come from Brighton.
Yes.
So a place very dear to my heart because that's my hometown as well. So it's a good music scene down there, isn't it?
It is. It's very creative. It's a very creative city. When I first moved down, I couldn't believe how many people were walking around with guitars.
Yeah.
Every other person had a guitar or an instrument.
Lots of buskers and people on the streets.
Very vibrant, and especially in the summer, it's very, very, very creative. Very
Is that why you chose to live there? Were you kind of naturally drawn to Brighton?
It was one of the main reasons I came down. It was somewhere. I was in Tunbridge Wells before.
Another lovely part of the world.
It is. It's great over there. You've got all the Ashdown Forest nearby and everything. And I was brought up in the Ashdown Forest anyway. So I was in Tunbridge Wells for quite a while, and was thinking for a couple of years before I moved down. I was thinking of getting down to Brighton. I went there a lot, and Eastbourne and Brighton. In my youth, I'd come down and with friends and stuff, and it was again another natural progression for me.
It is, and the music scene, it's got lots of clubs down there, obviously because of COVID, those are all closed at the moment, and but it's got so many really kind of quite bespoke venues, hasn't it? Quite unique venues, I always find, actually.
Very quirky.
That's right. Yes, and they're all over, and the one thing I like about it is it supports so many different genres of music. You've got the rock. Now, do you remember the Hungry Years that was there?
I do remember that.
Yes,
I do.
And heavy rock.
It's not only genres of music, which I think you can be doing any kind of. It's not sort of that you can do anything. It's being who you want as well.
Yes.
You can live in Brighton and be what you want to be and get on with what you want to do, and no one's going to take a second glance at it.
It's very true. It's a very accepting place, and it's a very creative place as well, and nobody really bats an eyelid. People just go about their daily business, and it's a very unique actually atmosphere in Brighton.
And I do like
that.
It still
continues.
I do like that. I noticed how different that felt after being in Tunbridge Wells. There was quite a good music scene at one point in Tunbridge Wells. But it was a bit cliquey, and it was a bit. And I only noticed how different it was when I came
until you come out
down to Brighton,
right,
and then it's like, well, this is the place. This I should have been years ago.
And of course,
what have I been doing?
You've got that wonderful sea. So, have you got a favourite venue there that you've played down there?
I think my favourite venue actually isn't one of the biggest ones. It's the Brunswick.
Oh yes.
In Hove.
In Hove.
It's just got a lovely sound there. The people who run it are amazing. They're lovely people. They're brilliant people, and they're trying to keep it going as well.
I was going to say, how are they coping? Have you spoken to them during this COVID?
They're trying various means of getting funding in and keeping it alive. For hopefully ready for when things can open again. And they're surviving at the moment. Fingers crossed.
Such a difficult
But so
time,
many are finding it very difficult.
It's such a difficult time for all music venues across the UK and theatres and anything really to do with arts.
Yes.
I know we've got social media, and I know we can do everything by Zoom and all the other social media exercise, but it's just not the same as going to a gig.
It's not the same because you've got to have the connection.
That's right.
Part of the...
Do you feed off of that yourself? Do you feed off that audience?
Exactly that. When a band's playing or you're playing live, you're giving something, hopefully, to them which they can enjoy. And when they do, and they're feeling that. They give that back to you. And it creates this connection back and forth, and it builds up through the night, you know. And that's why at the end of a gig, you know, when a gig has gone really well and there's a good crowd there, the end of the gig, it's everybody's up at this point because it's been this connection through the night, and you can't get
there's no price on that. Really,
no, exactly, and you can't ever achieve that through streaming and you know that sort of thing. You know?
It's so difficult. How do you see that sort of coming back to some kind of new normality? Well, have you got any gigs lined up? Have you got anything booked at all?
Yes, we've got some festivals next year if they happen, and they were from ones we had booked this year that had to be cancelled, but they weren't actually. They were postponed, so they're hopefully going ahead. Yeah. Same sort of dates as they were, but next year, and
I think that's what it is, isn't it? See, because at the moment we're still in the lockdown. I mean, we're hoping to come out very, very soon, but we're still kind of in the unknown, aren't we? So people are trying to plan. It must be so difficult for creatives like yourself, because you want to plan a tour, plan festivals, attend different open events, but of course you don't actually know whether they're going to go ahead or not. No. And of course, if they were abroad, I mean, that's even more difficult. Did you have anything planned?
Especially with the Brexit thing happening as well. At the end of December. I don't know how that's going to impact. It doesn't look good, but there may be ways around things. It may not be as bad as it initially looks, because you do have to have visas for playing the States and other countries. I see it hopefully as that side of things being sort of a bit like that, have various passes for certain parts of Europe, and that sort of thing.
Different countries, different regulations, but I'm sure it'll, because British music is loved throughout the world. So I don't think they won't let you in, because they'll be wanting the music. So musically, have you been doing any writing during the lockdown?
Lots of writing, actually. Lots of writing. We've been concentrating on the new album, which hopefully is going to be out in the spring.
Wonderful. Do you have a title for that?
We don't yet.
No, untitled.
There are songs that don't even have titles yet.
That's okay.
That's still song 10 or song 9,
But is that's a lovely part of the process, I would imagine.
It is, until you get to a point, I'm just so used to that being called song 10. I think we'll just call it something. Maybe that's what Blur did with song 2.
Yes, that's right. I was just about to say that.
But they're coming on really well. They're really sort of getting substance, and it's sort of it's on that last sort of stage of there's some nice mixes, everything's all the ingredients are there. It just now needs to be formulated production wise. And it's during that process you start to think, well, actually it doesn't need any of that or any of that, or it could do with that now, and that sort of thing, and it's all that sort of process going on.
And you're working with the rest of the band, because you've got Violet, haven't you, on drums?
Got Violet Stowe,
and then on bass you've got Matt.
Got Matt Hartley.
Yes, who's ex-Cure member.
Yes, exactly.
So are you working together at the moment?
Yeah, we're working very much together on this. Before Matt joined about 3 to 4 years ago. And before that, it was really a project about my songs, getting the right people together to perform them, and create a project around the songs. And people were learning their parts and putting their own little bits in and that sort of thing. But with this album, I wanted it to be working with another musician. Other people who had come and gone in the band were very good at what they did, but I needed someone who was good at writing, or collaborating on the levels.
I was going to say, do you collaborate? Do you all write, or is it just you and Matt?
Matt writes as well, but we've come together on this album to write together on the album, and it's really good. It's working really well, really quickly as well.
Obviously, two great minds. You're thinking on the same. Thinking on the same.
Matt's
things.
got so much experience from the past as well, and working with lots of good people and good projects. His ideas are very, very he catches on to where I'm coming from straight away, and we bounce off each other really well.
That's great.
And then my idea he might come back and say, actually, why don't we try this?
Yeah.
And I hadn't even thought of that, you know. I mean, that's what you want.
That's
what
it.
It's all about,
I was going to say that must be such a lovely, unique feel, because you know you are literally just bouncing ideas off each other and then coming up with a wonderful end goal, hopefully.
Yeah, and I'm used to writing it all myself.
Yeah.
Getting all the ideas down, all the parts down, and then people learning, and then sort of just we play live, and they, especially say the bass player, would then put his own little flurries in and his own little bits and adds to it, then would record. But it was generally still me doing everything. And this takes a little bit of the weight off, you know, and we weren't sure if it was going to work. You know, we went away. We decided we won't go to my studio. We decided we'll head off into the countryside somewhere, and
that's a good idea. Kind of out of the way, and just so you can just solely focus on your music.
You know, and we did that, and we were both a bit apprehensive because we didn't know how we might sit there all day. I don't know, you know, but
have cups of tea.
Yeah, and think about it and just end up going down the pub.
Yes,
you know, at the time.
At the time.
But it didn't. We were straight on it. You know, he's a very professional attitude, and it really, really worked very well. And we wrote a song, not all the lyrics, but we wrote a song recorded with all the parts each day.
Wow.
We went away
That's
for a
great.
week and came back with 5 songs.
That's great, Nick, isn't it? And how long have you been together as a band?
The band's been going since it started, really. I started getting 5 people together, 2012.
Yeah.
But that didn't really work out very well, because I wanted to come off guitar. I wanted to just be the front man, and not have all the hassle of all your guitar set up and your amps and everything, and
all the things that go with being a musician.
Yeah, I just turn up with the, you know, okay, if I have to bring the PA, fine, but you know, all the other things.
Yeah.
I just wanted to concentrate on singing. Yeah. And the first rehearsal didn't really go as planned. It sounded quite good, but it wasn't right. It was really a conjunction of the people. Either they still were unrehearsed or they couldn't cut it, but it didn't work. So it eventually, through the months and then years, with various different people coming and going, I think it's that we're on the 5th drummer now, and 2nd bass player. But now we're a 3-piece. Yeah. And it works.
And it seems to work.
It works really well.
But sometimes you have to go through that, though, don't you? You have to go through that kind of... You're evolving, really, as musicians, aren't you? Just finding the right fit. Because music is all about that, isn't it? It's about bringing people together that actually fit to make it work and successful, of course.
It's not just how good you are, you know, and what a brilliant musician you might be. You've got to have the right personality as well. And to find people that not only love doing what, or want to be involved with what you're doing, are lovely to be around, and lovely personalities, and but also brilliant musician as well, and all these factors, to find people especially like 5-piece bands. How do you find all 5 people that are going to all get on?
Stick with 3.
Yeah, keep it simple.
Keep it simple.
You know?
Keep it simple.
Simple works.
But that's good though, because it's working for you, and that you know, that's a wonderful thing. And then obviously once we're through COVID, you're going to do lots and lots of gigs, I would imagine, and as you say, go abroad. Yeah, America, Europe.
We've got lots in the pipeline, or was starting to you know, get organised.
It's been so frustrating, hasn't it? It must be so frustrating for you.
Yes, it's difficult because we just want to get out and play. And our last gig was November the 29th, 2019.
Wow.
You know, and it was a great gig.
That's a year. I mean, that's a year ago.
You know, and it's a long time.
That's a long time.
I think that the longest gap between of us not playing was, I think, a month and a half.
Wow.
When that was really long at the time.
I'm assuming you're speaking, but do you miss that performance? Do you just miss that going out on stage?
Very much so, because it's not just about, you know, playing and
writing and collaborating,
and then
like you said,
the playing the songs live and things like that. It's not only playing new stuff or trying out new stuff.
And it's how the audience reacts to your music, isn't it? I should imagine that's how it is for a musician. You know, if you're doing a new song, for example, you may think it's great, but I'm assuming you want to try it out on your audience, your fans, to say, well, let's just get their reaction.
It's quite amazing, actually. These songs you think are really good, and no one's sort of, they're not even moving to this. You know, and then you do something which is, you know, well, it's a bit of a slow one. We might put this one, and they dance around to it.
That's the audience, though, isn't it? That's why it's so important to to get back.
But it's important for us as a band, you know, because we're all missing that connection we have when we play live as well.
I can imagine.
You know, we've been, me and, you know, Matt comes over, and we obviously we've been working on the album, but Violet works remotely with us.
Yeah.
But we've got another drummer as well, though, Johnny.
Oh yes, that's right.
I've got to mention Johnny because
Johnny Barnett, isn't it?
Johnny Barnett, he's amazing. He's just come off recently, well, before COVID, and he'll come off a tour with Paul Draper from Manson.
Right.
I think he's getting a Manson tour back together.
Right.
If all goes
Fingers
well.
Crossed, yes.
So Johnny was involved with him. He's played with Stephen Wilson, Depeche Mode, I think.
Yes, I think.
And
he played Depeche Mode.
Various.
So you've got some good people around you, Nick. So you've got some really professional people around you, haven't you?
Yeah.
Which I've met you just once before, and I can sense that about you. You like that, don't you? You like everything to be professional, and
you either do it or you don't. You do it as well as you can, or don't do it. That's how I've always looked at things. You know, sometimes that can be a bit, you know, it can be a bit pernickety and be a bit, overly. Working on micro part, and which you don't need to do. So I try not to worry too much about how perfect something is. Like, it's not about that. It's just to have the right people who are capable at working at a high standard, as highest that you can. That is obviously everything is going to work better.
Yes, of course, well, and it sounds like, well, it is. It sounds like it's working. It sounds like you're going to, be doing some great things. 2021 is going to be the year of going to gigs, isn't it?
2021 is going to be an amazing year.
What are you doing tonight? Well, I'm seeing this band, this band.
It's all going to come together in 2021.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But Nick, let's talk about you as a person. Now, you were adopted from a very young age. And you recently discovered who your biological father was, is, and he's a very famous musician. Yeah. And you've obviously got the musical element in your soul. Do you feel that that's come from your father?
Well, all through my life, the family that adopted me, lovely family, great family. Yeah. None of them were musicians. Brother and two sisters. One sister was quite creative and went on to do dancing and stuff, but no musicians, nothing like that in the family. But it's been with me since I can remember. I started singing at 6, and writing my first songs when I was 9.
It's just in you, isn't it?
It's always been in me, and I've always through my life wondered where that's come from, and I've always known. That's one thing actually I've got to say. I've always known that I was adopted. It was never a secret. It was never kept from me. I don't even remember being told I was adopted. I was told that early, and was told that there would always help as well if I ever wanted to pursue anything.
That's wonderful. Wonderful
which is
of your
lovely,
adoptive parents to do that. And I know you had a really, really lovely upbringing, and you love your mum and dad.
Absolutely,
and you've had a wonderful childhood, didn't you?
And they encouraged me with everything musical that I was experimenting with and pursuing. They were very sort of behind me with that, just as they would be if I needed to find out anything more about myself. So through my life, it's been always that wonder of where the music's coming from, because it's so strong. It's just like,
When you found out, were you surprised, or did you just think, aha, that's where it comes from? Was that that kind of light bulb moment?
I was surprised to find out, that I'm from them, but not from the music side of things. Mm-hmm. Not surprised at all, because, like I said, it's always been in me. It's always been something I've felt. And then to find out that I am from a musician, a respected musician, is
Must be actually really quite wonderful to discover that.
It's great, it's lovely,
I can imagine.
It makes sense a lot makes sense to me,
It's kind of like laying the foundations, isn't it, really?
Yeah, and that's why I did that.
Yeah, and that's why you did that, exactly. Yeah. And for you as a person, obviously, because you were adopted, now you've got biological parents, you suffer from rheumatoid arthritis, don't you, Nick? So, and obviously at the moment, because we're all in lockdown, health has been a huge issue for many people. Many people have experienced mental health, of course, is a massive issue at the moment. Yeah. And because I'm a health and wellbeing, advisor myself, it was something I wanted to touch on with you, if that's all right. Because rheumatoid arthritis, especially with your work, can be very, debilitating, I should imagine, on some days.
Really is,
so does it affect your whole body, or where is it with
Generally,
you?
with me, this started quite a few years ago. I'd have certain tendon problems and certain times at gigs where my fingers would just seize and not move. One finger wouldn't move.
So in the last sort of 5 years, would you say, or is it?
It's really sort of started to show its face. Actually, I had a virus back in around 2015.
Right.
And it was quite a bad one. It lasted for quite a long time. I was on, various antibiotics and steroidal.
So that could have been the trigger.
And I think it was the trigger, because that triggered asthma, which I've never had in my life before, and triggered various pains coming on, which I sort of ignored initially,
Because you do, don't you?
Because you do, yeah.
Oh, I can't be bothered with that today.
I slept funny. I shouldn't have lifted that motorbike from my mate, without asking him for help. Silly things like that.
But you do that though, don't you? You generally do that. You do these things and then you just think, it's just an ache. But when did you realise that actually something's wrong here?
I started getting pains in my wrist, and then I'll get pains in my other wrist, and it would alternate, and then it would be both of them. And when it became both of them, I knew it. I initially thought it was tendon problems. Initially thought it was RSI or all sorts of various things. What could it be?
And you always think the worst, don't you, when you have something like that? You always think, oh gosh, what's happening?
Well, I did, but I thought, okay, I just need to rest my wrist. Maybe I'm doing too much production work in the studio, or I'm doing too much physical work. Various reasons you think might be the case. So I ended up having an X-ray and a blood test.
Right.
And the X-ray came back showing lots of wear and tear, especially in one of my wrists.
Yeah.
But severe wear and tear in both of my wrists. And they said was osteoarthritis.
Yes.
And I've got to have both of my wrists replaced.
Oh my gosh.
And I said, what, literally the whole wrist's replaced? And they said, yeah, it's easy. They go in and boom. And they made it sound really...
Nick.
But no, I looked into it.
Yes.
It's
I can't
not
imagine
good.
That's quite easy, to be honest,
It's not good. And
gosh.
I then had to try and decide what I would do about it.
And what year was this? This was...
That would have been about 2 years ago.
2 years ago, so not long really then. Yeah.
And... I looked into all the various ways that you could have this done. Some are less invasive, go to the States. They have various other methods they can do it over there. And it literally got to a point where I've got to do this, because, what happens is you end up, the wrists end up just seizing. And that's it. You can't move them anymore, and you don't have any.
Which is why you see people with quite crippled hands sometimes, because they've kind of just gone into a spasm and stayed like that. Yeah.
So I thought, okay, look, I'll have one done, and if that works, and then I'll have the other one done because I was told it's a 6 to 8 week recovery, and then you'll be able to drive again and everything like that. I'm thinking, well, what about playing guitar? Because that's my main.
I bet you were more interested when you could play the guitar. Yes.
Then the more I looked into it and the more I thought about it, I went and had a second opinion from a surgeon, and he said, look, if I was your friend, if I was a mate of yours, I would say don't do it.
Really?
Because he said, and he showed me all the percentages of successes and failures, and although this particular method they're using, it's been done for quite a while now, so they know what they're doing, but it said there's a 15% chance that it will go wrong. You're working with very small bones and very small area.
Very intricate surgery.
Yes, that's right. Yeah.
Yes.
And all the time you can play guitar, then don't have it done. literally last resort when you are in so much pain and you can't move your wrist and you can't play anymore, have it done, because then that will give you around 8 to 10 years. Gosh, Nick.
But what a thing to have to, to have to kind of weigh up.
Yeah,
because music is your life. That's your job.
Well, it's not. I could sing and everything band-wise and perform that kind of thing, but I write with a guitar.
Right. So
I play keyboards a bit, and
so it's
but I write with
a
guitar. Yeah, it's been my first instrument, and
So how did you get over it? Are you on medication, or is it?
Well, basically,
injections,
I decided not to have the operation. I thought I'd see it through. I'll take that second opinion.
Yes.
That advice. But then the results of the blood test came back that there was high inflammation that they presumed was to do with the osteoarthritis.
Okay.
So later on, I then had another blood test, and they said, this is a year later, they said, actually, we think it's RA. Rheumatoid arthritis,
right, okay.
And osteoarthritis.
Just for double measure.
Yeah, because my inflammation was so, the inflammation level in the blood was so high that, we need to look.
They were worried, obviously, clearly worried about you.
Yeah, so, and by that time, it wasn't just my wrists were hurting either. My shoulders were and it's when you start to get pain in mirrored joints, it's normally a sign that it could possibly be RA, because that's how it works. If you have it in one joint, then it could more likely be osteoarthritis, apparently. And I was getting this mirrored thing happening. When one joint started to hurt, then the other one would. And
incredibly painful, I must have thought, Nick.
Really painful, and really just out of the blue, you get this sharp pain as though you've stuck something in your shoulder.
So it's not even as though you have done lots of, perhaps you've been, I don't know, doing a lot of digging or gardening or something.
Exactly, and this is what was going through my head all the time. What have I done? What did I do a couple of days ago that, did I lift something, or did I, what, and you're starting to question all the time, what have I done now? My ankle's killing me. What did I do? Ankles, knees especially at the moment, and wrists, of course, fingers. My fingers swell, and it got to a point where I could hardly close my hands. So playing guitar,
Nick,
that became a problem.
Yes.
And of course shoulders. Not my neck, although it is stiff quite often, and that could be to do with shoulders.
Yes.
And it's linked up with your back and everything. Your jaw, my jaw's clicking, and it never used to. You start to feel you're falling apart. Wait a minute, how am I going to run around on stage like this?
You've got a tour to do next year. Come on, I can
goodness sake! Can you put some scaffolding inside me or something?
Do you know, it's really interesting because when I work with quite a lot of celebrities, and it's very interesting because this is your job. People forget that when you're a musician, it's your job, it's your profession. So anything that harms that. Harms your lifestyle, the amount of money that you can make. So it's really important. It'd be really interesting, Nick, because obviously we know you're adopted and you've just found out your biological father. It'd be really interesting, wouldn't it, to see what the situation was if this rheumatoid arthritis was actually in any of their family
I've never had medical history, see. I've never had that information.
That's where medical history would be really good, because it would be very important for you to find out exactly what you've got, and because if there is in their family, that's really important, because at some stage, perhaps not now, thankfully, but maybe later on, maybe a few years' time, hopefully 10, 20 years, but there might be something that you need from your family.
Or anything in the family.
Yes, that's right.
You get to a certain age where you need to know.
It's funny how you get a little bit older, don't you? Kind of 30, you start sort of thinking about these things, and then suddenly all these things become suddenly quite important to you.
And then you think, well, how long have I got now?
You've got an album to finish.
Have I got time to do this and that? Well, all these other things I want to do. Have I got time still?
You can't go there. So that would be something that would be wonderful if you could find out, the medical history, and perhaps hopefully that would be something that would be very beneficial for you.
Yeah.
But we're here today, which is great, and whatever you're doing, medication, whatever, it's obviously working. But, it's obviously makes you think about how things are going to be in maybe 5-10 years' time, Nick, when as the body gets older. And the thing is, as a performer, I would imagine you put a lot more, exertion on your body because you're jumping around the stage, there's a long time standing.
It is a workout.
It is, exactly that.
I don't like to really stand there and be boring.
Yes, stand in the middle of the mic and that's
it. I always give it my all. You see, it's always it's my passion. It's my life. I live and breathe it. It's if I'm playing to people, I want them to, be part of it. And enjoy. And I give it everything I've got. And then I suffer afterwards.
Bless you.
But that's okay.
Yeah. You suffer for your art.
I've got a whole day I can stay in bed and then do a gig again in the evening.
So Nick, what's for the future for you? Obviously, we've got to get you back out on the road. I mean, I know you're working with a PR company now, you're doing new things with him. Is this exciting for you? Is this kind of a whole new chapter?
It's a case of I'm musically, especially musically. I'm sort of at that stage I want to evolve again. I'm starting, I'm evolving all the time with the songs and how I write and everything. But now working with Matt, there's obviously more influences coming in from his side with the writing now that we're writing together. But it's sort of it feels like it's that time where I the next album. Well, basically we've had 2 EPs out so far, so this really is the first album.
Yes.
And I want it to be the best it can be, and I want the songs to be the best I can do at the moment. But I know I'm writing differently now, a little bit differently. My influences are the same. I'm inspired the same, but it's definitely as you go through it. I listen back to things, I think, well, I wouldn't do that now, even just on production side of things, because I do we record everything at my studio. And,
yes, because you're a producer as well.
Yeah, and I produce it, and then we get it mastered, later. So it's very much. So
you're almost watching your songwriting evolve, aren't you? And now you've collaborated with Matt. It seems to be a very good collaboration. And you're looking forward to kind of new and exciting new things.
Absolutely.
And I mean, this your latest single. Let's talk about that now. And we're going to be showing the video at the end of the interview so people can see it. So it's released now. It was released this month in November. It's called Flowers for Jackie. Very 60s vibe going on there. Very 60s influence. Love the video.
Thank you.
It's amazing, and I love the song. So, is that who you're influenced by, and Matt as well?
Absolutely,
what are your influences?
Definitely. Again, I don't know why, but I've always loved. Well, I actually loved the 50s when I was about 8 or 9. It was Buddy Holly and Elvis and all of that. The Everly Brothers and Beach Boys
Great
and everything.
Era.
That could have been my love of harmony though, because I've always loved harmony and singing with other people and harmonies and that sort of thing. So Everly Brothers and Beach Boys and all that sort of thing was good vibrations.
Classic.
And the sounds on it.
I know. If you think about it, it was produced then. I mean, as a producer, you can appreciate the production of some of those songs and how intricate they were. And how ahead of their time. I always think those songs are way ahead of their time.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I think that's where music, comes into it, doesn't it? Because musicians, throughout the centuries, throughout all of the 1920s, 30s, 40s, doesn't matter. They're all striving to be a little bit better, but there's always somebody who, and Beach Boys you touched on, that I always thought that was a band who were way ahead of their time as far as their music was concerned.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's Brian Wilson, wasn't it? Really,
course,
that was the head of that.
He
was the guy experimenting and leading that. But I mean. I led it up. My sister gave me a whole bag of Beatles singles, and there was obviously Kinks and other singles mixed up with them, but most of them were Beatles. And that then led me more into I like this, and so the Beatles, the Kinks, the Who.
You can hear that just come through on some of your
I mean, I've just always loved you know, the sound that they had, and it's the way they recorded then as well. I mean, I think it's my love of production has always been there. You know, I've always loved the idea of multi-tracking and, you know, the studio side of things.
Yes.
Always loved that side of things as well as the writing and performing. You know, get me in a studio and you won't get me out. You know, it's the place to be. I love it. You know?
That's good, and it's good that you've, as I say, you found Matt now. You can collaborate. Yeah. So, how do you see your future? What's in store? Obviously, as I say, you've got the new album that's going to come out next spring.
Yeah,
going to be doing gigs. Is there anything in particular that you'd like to do now?
Yeah, I'd definitely travel more. You know, I'd like.
Won't that be wonderful?
Extend. You know, out a bit further, and you know, we've done a lot of festivals through the years, but you know, it would be nice to do. I've always wanted to go. I've never been to the States actually, and that is definitely one place I'd love to go. I'd love to go to Nashville.
Oh, they'd love you.
You know,
Nashville. Yeah.
all that side of, you know, the scene. It would be great to go over there. But also Germany, you know.
Yes, I was going to say Europe actually is very, you know, they've got some really, really good bands that come out of Europe, and they love their music, and they're very loyal. Yeah. They've a very loyal fan base in Europe.
I think they spend about 70% of their wages on music.
They adore music. But Nashville, you mentioned, you know, I've been fortunate enough to go there, you know, quite a few times, and they would love you because they, you know, you go past a busker in the street, and they are phenomenal. Yeah. You know, you everyone you meet is just a fun, but you'd appreciate that, don't you? Because they love their art.
Yeah,
you know, they love their art. Well, Nick, it's been such a pleasure to be with you today. Thank you so much.
Thanks for having me.
We're going to play out with Nick's new song, which is Flowers, and it's by The Speak, and it's Flowers for Jackie. And we'd like to thank you, Nick. Thanks so much
Monica.
for joining
me
today. Thank you. Take care.
Thanks, Andrew.
They say you never follow the sun. I don't know what to become, but I'm hoping you'll save me. Lately, I've been holding on to the stars. Gonna wait till you realize that you're driving me crazy. Flowers for Jackie, flowers for Jackie. Flowers for Jackie, flowers for Jackie. Everything you are, it's everything you are. Sometimes it's like I'm flying high as the sky. If I fall before you decide, there's no way you could wake me. Always, you're always taking the time. Today I'm gonna tell you why. There's no one else that can save me. Flowers for Jackie, flowers for Jackie. Flowers for Jackie, flowers for Jackie. Everything you are, it's everything you are.
that was brilliant. I hope you enjoyed that video as much as I did. That's Flowers for Jackie by The Speak. And Nick, before I let you go, I'd like to ask you one final question, if I may, and that is, what would be your one wish for next year?
Well, now I know a bit more about my family history. I know I've got a cousin that has a fantastic voice who's in Australia, and I think it would be great if we could perhaps record together, do something together next year.
That sounds like a plan.
Yeah.
Let's hope that happens. Thank you so much, Nick. It's been an absolute pleasure to have you today.
Thank you.
Thank you.